But there was definitely like negativity. Like you could feel it. Yeah. And from my point of view, it was really like a divorce. Like when it actually happened, it felt like a divorce. And Daphne Reed came in.
She was the new Aunt Viv.
She was the new Aunt
the nicer
Viv,
one.
and it felt like we had to get to know.
Tatyana Ali just spilled the tea, and let me tell you, it changes everything you thought you knew about Will Smith and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. What we all believed was a close-knit, fun-loving television family, turns out it was a house of secrets, pressure, and behind-the-scenes drama that no one dared talk about until now. So, let's take a deep dive into the hidden chaos. First off, let's talk about Will Smith's silent struggles before the Fresh Prince ever hit the airwaves. Will had absolutely zero plans to become a sitcom star. At the time, he was already making moves in the music scene as part of DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Their album, He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper, went triple platinum, and they even snagged a Grammy.
And the Grammy Award goes to Getting Jiggy with It, Will Smith!
Will was living the high life, young, rich, and enjoying every bit of it. He was spending like there was no tomorrow. Cars, jewelry, designer outfits, you name it. But here's the kicker. Will wasn't thinking about saving or paying taxes. The IRS came knocking and hit him with a $3 million debt. In a matter of days, everything was gone. His cars, his bank accounts, his furniture, all of it seized. One minute, Will was living like a king, and the next, he was broke at just 21 years old.
I had spent most of my money, like all of it. I spent all my money. And I didn't forget, but I didn't pay the IRS. In my mind, I wasn't like trying to avoid paying taxes. I was just like, oh damn, they need their money. The IRS took all of that stuff, so I was like broke.
And the drama didn't end there. His second album tanked. Money dried up, and Will, at the peak of his fame, was now stuck, broke, and famous. That's when he met Benny Medina, a music executive who had a wild idea sitcom based on Will's own life.
So I went to the Arsenio Hall show, and I met a dude named Benny Medina. Benny Medina is the real-life Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, except he actually went from Watts to Beverly Hills. Same basic concept, way shorter distance. I meet Benny, and he pitches me the idea for this show, and I'm like, I'm not an actor. I'm like, cool. And he says, hey, I want you to meet Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones is producing with me.
Growing up in West Philly and later moving in with his rich relatives in Beverly Hills, Medina saw potential. Quincy Jones jumped on board to back the project, and Will auditioned fast. The whole thing felt like a rush. Will had barely any acting experience, but just like that, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was born. But behind that confident, carefree, on-screen persona, Will was drowning. For the first 3 seasons of the show, 70% of every paycheck went straight to the IRS. Will wasn't living the dream. He was fighting to survive. And while millions of people were laughing along, Will was carrying the weight of a financial nightmare, trying to stay afloat. Enter Tatyana Ali, the sweet, innocent Ashley Banks. Tatyana joined the cast at just 11 years old, and though she was young, she felt the tension. The smiles and jokes on screen hid a lot of pressure behind the scenes. It wasn't all fun and games. There were also rumors that one time, Tatyana opened the door to Dwayne's dressing room, and what she saw? Well, let's just say it wasn't what anyone expected. She walked in on something shocking involving Will. Let that sink in for a second. Yes, she saw Will in an intimate moment, and her life was never the same after that. Tatyana later reflected on the environment on set. It wasn't all bad, but it was intense. She could feel the weight of the situation. There was so much riding on the show, and everyone knew it.
But there was definitely like negativity. Like you could feel it.
Will's journey from financial ruin to stardom wasn't just about acting. It was about survival. And the show, which made Will a household name, was his last shot at redemption. Every laugh, every episode was fueled by the pressure to climb out of a financial disaster. No one knew just how much Will was struggling behind that big, charming smile. But it wasn't just Will who had his battles. You remember Aunt Vivian, right? The original fierce Janet Hubert, who was suddenly replaced after season 3. No explanation, no warning, gone. Enter Daphne Maxwell Reid. But here's the twist. That quiet cast change, it hid one of the nastiest feuds in television history, Janet Hubert and Will Smith. According to Janet, the tension between her and Will got so bad, she was basically forced off the show.
From my point of view, it was really like a divorce. Like when it actually happened, it felt like a divorce. And Daphne Reid came in.
She was the new Aunt Viv.
She was the new Aunt
The nicer
Viv,
one.
and it felt like we had to get to know like our new mom.
In 1993, Janet told Jet magazine that Will used his power to get rid of her. She claimed he was using his clout to control who stayed and who went. And Janet, she was shown the door. But Will had his own version. In a 1994 radio interview, Will accused Janet of wanting the show to revolve around her character. He even went as far as calling her the Antichrist of their relationship. Janet, on the other hand, wasn't having it. She claimed that the Fresh Prince set was toxic. According to her, once she started speaking out about being treated unfairly, she was labeled as difficult. Will got all the spotlight, while the rest of the cast was left in the shadows. And when it came to her contract, it was a mess. Janet was pregnant when she was handed a terrible offer. She turned it down, and just like that, she was out.
It's been discussed for 25 years. It's insane. Janet Hubert was never difficult on that set. Janet Hubert was so professional, it wasn't even funny. I think Will simply needed to win, and I think sometimes when you get caught up in a lie, and those things never happened. She never left the set, I never left the set. We got along great. I think he was young, and he was inexperienced, and I think he simply had to win.
The aftermath? It wrecked Janet's career. Hollywood blackballed her. For years, she couldn't find steady work. She was punished for speaking out. In the 2020 Fresh Prince reunion special, Will and Janet came face to face for the first time in nearly 30 years. The moment was raw, emotional, and long overdue. Will admitted he'd been immature and blind to the pain he'd caused. Janet opened up about the years of hurt. It didn't erase the past, but it gave them a much-needed moment of closure.
Will Smith and Janet Hubert have put their differences aside. The former co-stars sat down together for the first time in 27 years during the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion special on HBO Max to discuss the actress's contentious exit from the sitcom nearly 3 decades ago.
Meanwhile, sweet Tatyana Ali had her own awkward moment. It was supposed to be a special, personal milestone, her very first kiss. But what should have been an intimate moment turned into a full-on public spectacle. Out of nowhere, Alfonso Ribeiro and Karen Parsons, who played her on-screen siblings, showed up on set when they weren't even supposed to be there. And guess what? They stayed and watched the whole thing. Tatyana shared in a 2018 interview that her heart sank when she saw them standing there, watching behind the huge sitcom cameras. She felt so embarrassed, she admitted, "I wanted to die."
But I had my first kiss on the show.
Did
like
you?
my real first kiss.
Okay. That's got to be hard.
And I just remember everybody, people that were not involved in the scene at all, coming to set that afternoon to see.
Oh no!
And I just remember Karen Parsons, who played Hillary Banks, Karen, Alfonso, just like, and you know, we had the cameras on sitcoms are like huge cameras, and I just remember them like looking behind the camera, like.
Talk about a moment no one should have to go through. By 2013, Tatyana had grown up and was more comfortable talking about her love life. She even joked about how her thoughts on relationships had changed, calling one-night stands her guilty pleasure next to bread pudding.
We're all grown. You know, Tatyana recently admitted that one-night stands are one of her favorite things. Yes, you did.
She turned the awkwardness into growth. And now, she's no longer that shy kid in oversized hats. She's a confident, grown woman who owns her journey. As for Alfonso Ribeiro, well, his journey wasn't as smooth. He was stuck with the role that made him famous, Carlton Banks. And while the fame came with its perks, it also came with a curse. Once The Fresh Prince ended, Alfonso realized Hollywood didn't want him. They only wanted him as Carlton.
In terms of acting, most of the world can't get past Carlton. So because of that, you know, I have been typecasted to the point where it's almost impossible for people to see me doing something else.
They didn't care about Alfonso the actor, just the character. And that hurt. He admitted in a 2024 interview that playing Carlton was both the best and worst thing to ever happen to him. It was one of the greatest roles he'd ever played, but it also became a trap. Alfonso couldn't land any other roles because people couldn't see him as anyone else. His career went from soaring to stuck. But he didn't give up.
Imagine for a second, you did something. People loved it. People thought it was fantastic. They think of you doing it. They can't think any other way. It was perfect. You landed every joke the way they wanted you to land it. It was nothing better. And then it ends and they tell you that thing that you were so great at, you'll never be able to do it again.
Instead, he found a new groove in hosting. He found a fresh start as the smooth, upbeat host of America's funniest home videos and Dancing with the Stars. And you know what? He's happy with it. He's finally being seen for who he is, not who he played on television.
It's why hosting has become so much fun for me, because for 30 years, 15, 20 years, I was like, no, I'm not that guy. I'm this guy. And this guy can do all those other things if you just forget this guy.
Now, let's get back to Will Smith. After all the fame, fortune, and perfect Hollywood image, Will couldn't outrun his past. The show always played up the culture shock between West Philly and Bel-Air, but for Will, it wasn't just a storyline. It was his life. Behind the smiles and sharp suits, Will was still haunted by the trauma of his childhood. In interviews, he opened up about the most heartbreaking moment of his life, the night he saw his dad put his hands on Will's mom. He was just 9 years old.
Each of my siblings remembers that night in the bedroom. With me standing there in the doorway, I watched my father punch my mother so hard that she spit up blood. That moment, probably more than any other moment in my life, has defined who I am today.
That moment stayed with him for decades and shaped how he moved through life, how he approached relationships, and even his obsession with being perfect. While the Fresh Prince skyrocketed, Will was drowning his pain with work. Every interview, every movie, every red carpet appearance wasn't just about fame. It was about proving he could rise above everything he came from. On the outside, he was winning. On the inside, that's a different story. And then came the whispers. Will's name started popping up in connection to some of Diddy's more scandalous parties. A resurfaced 2023 interview with Keith D, the man tied to the Tupac case, claimed that he saw Will and Jada at one of Diddy's infamous freak-off parties. These weren't your average celebrity gatherings. We're talking wild behavior and secret cameras everywhere.
Jada Pinkett, Vivica Fox, all of them was there.
The internet went crazy. People wondered, what was Will doing at these parties? Was he just a guest, or was he involved in something darker? The speculation didn't stop there. Will's former assistant, Bilal, also made some jaw-dropping claims. He said he walked in on Will and actor Dwayne Martin during an intimate encounter in a dressing room. This wasn't just gossip. This was someone who had been in Will's inner circle for years, but instead of defending himself or filing a lawsuit, Will stayed silent. And that silence only fueled the rumors.
All right, I open the door to Dwayne's dressing room, and that's when I see Dwayne and having anal sex with Will.
Let me process that for a second. Who was on top?
It wasn't a top. There was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Dwayne was standing up.
Then, in 2024, Keith D dropped another bomb. He claimed that Will and Jada were involved in wild parties of their own, targeting up-and-coming celebrities. Jada quickly denied everything, calling the claims ridiculous. But again, no legal action, no lawsuits, no cease and desist, just silence. And that silence, well, it raised even more questions.
You made a comment saying that party was a little wild, man.
Yeah,
like Will Smith and Jada was into some, wild stuff or something like that?
That shit weird. That just was a weird party.
Why you say that? Why the party was weird?
Because back in the days, people weren't used to that type of stuff. But now it's more out there now.
At a live event in 2024, Will finally snapped and addressed his involvement in Diddy parties. The crowd didn't know how to react. He tried to lighten the mood with a joke about bottles of lubricant found at Diddy's properties.
He says to the audience, "I haven't addressed any of this publicly, but I just want to say this very clearly. I don't have shit to do with Puffy, so y'all can stop all the memes. I can stop all of that bullshit." Will adds, "I ain't been nowhere near no damn freak off. I do enough of my own shit. Don't be putting me in other people's bullshit. I ain't been nowhere near that man. I ain't did none of that stupid shit. So whenever y'all hearing if somebody say that, it's a damn lie. I don't even like baby oil."
But instead of calming things down, it made everything worse. People weren't focused on the denial. They were focused on why he had to address it in the first place. Why was his name even involved in this mess?
People's bullshit. I ain't been nowhere near that man. I ain't did none of that stupid shit. So whenever y'all hear it, if somebody say that, it's a damn lie. I don't even like baby oil.
For years, Will Smith had carefully built a brand, one of success, fame, and a perfect family. But now, cracks were starting to show. And behind the camera, The Fresh Prince wasn't just a feel-good sitcom. It was a pressure cooker filled with secrets, egos, and deep trauma. The cast, too, carried their own scars. Broken friendships, ruined careers, and a whole lot of pain that nobody ever saw on screen. And now, after all these years, the truth is coming out. What we laughed at on television, the cast lived through for real, and it's shaking things up in a big way. If this blew your mind, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who still belts out the theme song like it's 1995. Don't forget to subscribe for more. See you in the next video.